This is part 3 of IELTS speaking, which is in continuation of part 2. So, this part will ask you questions about some related to part 2 and some a different set of questions altogether. So, you should be very, very clear and alert about what you are speaking in part 2. In this video, I have taken example purposely from what I have chosen in part 2 because it gives you an example of how you can be asked questions in part 3 based on the topic that you spoke in part 2. So the first one over here is to describe an important event in the history of our country. So this is an example, the second example in part 2. I'll also post the part 2 link in the description so that it becomes easy for your reference if you have not gone through the part 2 of the video. So if you answer those set of questions, you give a speech, then you get some few set of questions in part 3 related to the speech that you gave or whatever you said in your speech. So these are rough set of questions that you can expect from this kind of topic. So first is like, do you think it is important to know about the history? Here, it's upon you to state yes or no, but I prefer like yes. It is very important to know about our history. History basically tells us about the past. It also teaches us many things, and everything has its own history. History also teaches that we should not repeat our own mistakes that we made in past, and it also gives us an area to judge ourselves based on the progress that we have made from our past mistakes. So this is the way you answer a question. It should be very simple. If you want to add any creative words, you can, but don't add creative words that you are not familiar with or you're not comfortable speaking because there you can lose marks. If you keep it simple, it's very okay. Second question over here is based on how can people get reliable historical information. If you remember in part 2, there was a sub point that is a prompt point given that how you came to know about this event. So you must have stated some, maybe you studied about those events or maybe you read about those event in the articles or something like that. So based on that, you get a question in part 3. So this is the kind of question you can get. So you can say that there are many reliable sources of information which are now available to us. So it may be in written form of books by great authors. You can also get it in museums or art galleries. Now, due to the technological development, you can also have an easy access to whatever you want to search for through internet. So you can give and short, concise, and quality answers by just thinking and keeping your thoughts clear in front of the examiner. So you the third question is how do you think historical figures can serve as a role model for today's young generation? So over here you can say yes, famous historical models can serve as a role model for today's young generation. You can also give an example of some historical role models that inspires you the most, and then you can convert this into people in general. You can just play around with the words and make it for a people in general. Then you can also be asked a question about like do people in your country like to visit museum. You can say yes, it can be a generalized view. You don't have to be very specific which museum and everything. You can give a very broad view about the people in your country. Then you think the museum should be free of cost. So if you are given such a question, you can say that no, I don't think museum should be free of cost because museum has to go and has to undergo some maintenance charges. So there should be some minimum fees charge which is affordable for everyone in the country or even for tourists. So when you say this even for tourists, then you can also get a question like, do you think local and tourists should be charged the same price to enter a museum? So you can answer the question yes, local and tourists should pay the same amount as if tourists are charged more, it is unfair. Some people also think that they are already paying for to keep the museum look to make the museum look good or something like that, and tourists are charged more. But I feel that tourists are helping us in many other ways. They if tourists come to our country, they help us boost our economy. They also not only they just visit the museum, they also go to other recreational services which also boost that particular industry. So tourists should be charged an equal amount and given equal fair respect when they come to our country. That's it. If you by any chance are given a question where you are in a situation to agree or disagree with an opinion, so you can go with whatever opinion you feel is right. There is no right or wrong situation over here. You will not be judged on if you choose agree or disagree. If you choose agree, please justify why did you choose agree and give relevant facts and statements. If you choose disagree, you can do the same thing. You don't have to be in middle and state diplomatic statement which shows that you're very confused. You can stick to either of the sides. If they say you have to say both agree and disagree, you can say okay, you agree because, you disagree because, and then at the end you can also state your opinion whether you agree or disagree and end it. The next is the small practice section that I have added to the part 2 as well. So it is in a continuation of part 2. So it is to describe a piece of electronic equipment that you find useful. Now, if you have chosen laptop or smartphones or maybe some other electronic equipment, so you will get questions based on those. So these are three simple questions that you can practice on your own, like what kind of equipment do most of the workers use in their office today. So you can say like with the advancement of technology nowadays, everyone has their personal laptop, so because many people work from home. You can also talk about some thing about covid. Because of covid, that many things have shifted to digital side, so many people are now working from home, so they set up their own laptops and PCs. So whatever it is, so you can give that kind of explanation. And the last question, it is like some people think that technology has brought stress than benefits to some people. So you can state whether you agree or disagree, and where if you agree, why do you agree, and if you disagree, why do you disagree. The second question is how has development in technology affected employment in our country. So you can say that in a country like India, there is equal weightage to, there is not like everyone is employed to a tech savvy company. There are also a great amount of population that is still a labor force, which is like agriculture or some other field jobs where you don't have so much use of technology. So you can state your opinions very well, and you can practice this. The last part is like what should you avoid doing in this part is not to repeat information that you already spoke in part 2. It might happen that you feel that it is very monotonous and very confusing, and you get the same content to answer. But you have to keep in mind that you have already answered a particular set of statements in part 2, so you don't repeat yourself in part 3. It is like boring for someone to hear the same answers. It shows that you don't have any opinion, you don't have any different opinions. So be a bit different, give a vivid view. Don't contradict your own statement, but you can put some more efforts and grab some new points. Second is do not worry if you get stuck in some question. Like here in part 3, they will test you like till when you can communicate at your best. Like what is the ceiling that you can reach where you don't know anything or where you can't speak at all. It is like they are testing you of how well you can communicate and in what all situation you can communicate. So that is why they will ask you cross questions. They will maybe also interfere when you're talking and just make some new question and ask you. That's okay, they are just testing you. It is not like you are going somewhere wrong. It's they want you to give your best. They want you to see that how well you can communicate if the question is twisted or you change their opinion in between. So it's okay. You don't have to worry like, okay, why did he ask me many questions, my friend did not get many questions. It is not like that. It depends upon examiner to examiner, and also depends upon a person like who is giving the exam, what he speaks and how the conversation goes. So it is not like every people get a same set of question or same number of question. It also depends upon the topic. The last is do not make the use of word will when you are asked for something like give future recommendation or what will happen in future, what are the future changes, what do you expect in future, or how do you see yourself in future. So there is no like I will do, I will see, I expect to see. So like if you use too much of will it does not look good. So like keep this use of this word very limited. So this is my end of part 3, and this is end of IELTS speaking. I have uploaded all the 4 parts in my playlist. So if you play one, you can see the other 3 parts in line, and I'll also add the in the description the link of other parts. So in case if you have missed on anything, you can refer those. Thank you and all the best.